Okay, so this earlier we talked about the two different concepts of division. So this video is gonna show us how we can demonstrate the problem and using chips, and then how to record our numbers. Remember that we did for the multiplication, we talked about that the concept of multiplication, and we use multiplication math and chart recording sheets, so we can use visuals and transfer the visuals to the numbers equation. That's what we are going to do, exactly the same thing in here. So we talked about the two different types of division earlier with the cookies and guests, which is a very familiar context for kids. We are going to talk about another example with the same concept. So here we have two different types of division. Talk about that we know the number of total. So for division problem, total is always given. We always know the total. Total is given, but sometimes we know number of groups, so we need to find the number in each group. Sometimes we know number in each group, so we have to find out number of groups. So how many cookies per guest, or if we serve 4 cookies per guest, how many guests can you serve? That's what we talked about in the earlier video about the concept. So here, if we know the total and if we know the number of groups, so we are sharing the amount among the groups equally. So the concept of doing this is sharing. So we call them sharing, equal sharing division, or research-wise we say partitive division. But if this word is too unfamiliar to you, you can use sharing division. Sharing division is fine. So we have total 28 pieces of sticker papers here, which he distributed equally to 4 students. How many pieces of paper did each student receive? So do we know the total? Yes. How many papers? 28 pieces of papers. Do we know number of groups? Yes, 4 students. So we need to find out how many papers per student. So how many papers per student? That's what we are trying to find out. The other concept of division is we call them measurement division, because we're measuring out things. Or sometimes you can use grouping division, because we are trying to find out how many groups are there. So this time we know that 28 pieces, the total. Do we know number of groups, or do we know number in each group? We know number in each group. So each student need 4 pieces of papers. And I have 28. Then how many students can I serve? That's the problem, right? So this is sharing, equal sharing, partitive dealing out, because the strategy that I'm going to use is going to kind of dealing out the cards. I'm going to show you here. In this one, we are using repeated subtraction. We are making groups of 4 and trying to find out how many groups of 4 are in my total number of 28. That's what we are trying to find out. So you see them here. So I know what information is known. Total 28 papers, and I have 4 groups. I know the 1, 2, 3, 4 groups. I want to figure out inside of a circle how many per person. This one, I know the total 28 pieces, but this time I know number in each group is 4 inside of the circle, and I want to count 4 at a time. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. So I think I can move one more group. So my answer is how many groups? Do you see the difference in here? The notion is very important, because depending on the concept and notion, kids might have different strategies. Certain strategies doesn't make more sense or less sense. So that's very important concept they need to know. So sharing problem. So we know the total 28 papers, and I have 4 students. So this is what I have here, equal sharing. So I'm going to sharing out 28 papers. And I don't know how many, so I'm going to start from 2 at a time, kind of dealing out the cards for kids. 2, 2, and 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. I still have some more here, so I can figure out 1, 2, 3, 4. So my answer is inside of the circle, because I know number of groups. I need to find out how many papers are in one person. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is my answer. So my answer is 4 papers per student. So if I want to write down number sentence here, looks like 28 papers divided by 4 students. My answer is, sometimes you say answer as a quotient, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 papers per student. Then how can I use number sentence? How can I use this recording sheet like we did for the multiplication? So I have the total. So division problem total is always given to you. So I have total 28 papers. For sharing problem, do we know number of groups or number in each group? For sharing problem, we know number of groups, so I want to share equally among the groups. So from the problem, how many groups do I have? My group is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know number of groups already. So this is not my answer. My answer is inside of box. Because my answer is how many in each group is my answer. This is what I need to find out. So from this picture, I know that in each box there are 7. So my answer is inside of the box. Do you see what I did here? Right? So I know the number of group here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, but this is not my answer because I already know number of groups. I need to find out how many is inside of my box. How many in each group? This is my question mark. I need to figure it out. So inside the number is my answer, which is 7. Now let's talk about the measurement division here. So earlier we talked about the partitive division, kind of sharing. So we know the number of total number 28. We know number of groups. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 groups are given. We need to find the inside of the group. So each person, how many pieces of paper they're gonna get. So inside of the group is missing. That's what we are trying to find out, right? And measurement division, we know the total. I mentioned that for division problem, total is always given. But sometimes we need to find out number of groups or number in each group. But this one we know number in each group, right? The problem says each student needs 4 pieces of paper. So I know number in each group. So I know number in each group. So I need to find out how many groups, how many students can I serve. So usually they use repeated subtraction. So that's why we say this is repeated subtraction division 2. So I have a total of 24. So they can kind of keep counting until I get to 28. So I have one group of 24 I made, and another group of 24 I made. So I have 2 groups of 24. That's going to be 4 and 8. And I have another group is 12, 3 groups of 24, and 4 groups of 24, 16, and 5 groups of 24, 20, 6 groups of 24, 24 is 24. So far I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups of 24 I made. So I still need to go up to 28, one more group of 24. So I can make another group of 24, 7. So my answer is not inside the number because I already know the inside number from the problem. I need to find out how many groups do I have. So this is going to be my answer. Right? So when you look at the equation here, they look exactly the same. 28 divided by 4. This one is 28 divided by 4. So when they know equation, they look at the equation, they seem to the same problem. But depending on the concept, their answer with unit change. Both of the answer is 4. What does this 4? Both of them are answered 7. What does this 7 represent? The first problem, the 7 represent 7 papers per student. But this time, they look same 28 papers. But this one I divide by 4 papers per student. My answer is 7 students. Unit has changed. But they need to understand the concept, be able to pick the right unit. Depending on the problem context, unit can change. So a lot of times for tests and problems, they have the answer, but they also need to know what does answer represent. What's the unit for the answer? That's the important part. Okay? So I'm going to demonstrate this one in here. So I have 28 papers, and this time I don't know the number of group, but I know the number in each group needs 4 papers per student. So I have 28. So I have 4 papers up here, and I can give 1 student. And another 4 paper, I can give second student. Another 3, group of 4, I can give you another student. 1, 2, 3, 4, another 4 paper, 4 students. So far I passed out 4 times 4, 16 problems, and 16 papers. And another group of 4, another student. Another group of 4, another student. So, and I have still 4 left over here. So I have 4, another student here. So now what is my answer? My answer is number of papers or number of students for measurement division problem. My answer is, because I already know in each student has 4 papers, my question is how many students can I serve? So I can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 students. My answer is 7 students. Then how can you record this into the paper here? That's what we're trying to practice in here. So I know the total. Your total is always 28 for this problem. And I know number in each group. So I can use 4 for one group and another 4, and I can count 4, 8, 12. So I can go a little more. 4, this is 16, this is 4, 20, this is 4, 20, 24, 4, 28. So I counted up to 28. I need to find out how many groups. So this is not my answer because I already know from the problem per group, but I need to find out how many groups are together. So I can count how many groups are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So what is my answer? 7 groups, which is 7 students. That is my answer. So do you see the difference in here? So depending, we're going to talk about the division strategy after this, but depending on the concept, some strategy makes more sense to the students. So I want you to be careful whenever you use division problem. Remember the concept and what approach will be best to fit for particular types of division. So we want to teach them division meaningfully. Okay? Good. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching.